Right. A few fairly long pieces that need to be covered in this show. I left quite a few bits out. Otherwise, we'd be going on all night. But this next piece comes on the heels of another crown country, New Zealand, and declared by some jackass over there who stated, "I am now directing the Ministry of Health that all confirmed cases, are to be managed in a quarantine facility." That was New Zealand. The UK is following closely by. This is now Canada. Which colony of the Crown is left? Now, this was a piece put out by the Canadian government that stated the following: service provider or providers for federal quarantine isolation sites, the 10th October the 17th, 2020. For Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, National Capital Region, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, Northwest Territories, Nova Scotia, Nunavut, Ontario, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Saskatchewan and Yukon. Public Works and Government Services Canada Trade Agreement CETA-CFTA. Tendering procedures. All interested suppliers may submit a bid. Competitive procurement strategy not applicable. Only comprehensive land agreement no. Nature of requirements. Request for information regarding service providers for federal quarantine isolation sites for the Government of Canada. The Government of Canada is considering engaging a third-party service provider for federal quarantine isolation sites that will be used to house and care for people for public health and other related federal requirements associated with the COVID-19 pandemic response. The government is seeking feedback from current service providers about potential options for standing up, operating and managing all of the services associated with these sites. And the purpose for this request for information is to seek feedback from potential service providers in order to develop a strategy for the potential future management of these sites going forward. Should the Government of Canada determine that a third-party managed solution going forward is a viable strategy, Public Services and Procurement Canada may issue a request for proposal to provide suppliers the opportunity to bid on the services required as per the schedule contained within this document. And the RFI seeks industry's feedback to 1. Obtain supplier feedback with advice and guidance on the operation of these sites. 2. Assess industry's interest in bidding on a the contemplated RFP, which is whatever that is, RFP. And 3. Identify and minimize any potential competitive barriers where possible. And 4. Ensure that potential suppliers can deliver the types of services being requested in a possible upcoming RFP. Request for proposal. Upcoming. Then they said this is not a bid solicitation. This RFI will not result in the award of any contract. As a result, potential suppliers of any goods or services described in this RFI should not reserve stock or facilities, nor allocate resources as a result of any information contained in this RFI, nor will this RFI result in the creation of any source list. Therefore, whether or not any potential supplier responds to this RFI will not preclude that supplier from participating in any future procurement. Also, the procurement of any of the goods and services described in this RFI will not necessarily follow this RFI. This RFI is simply intended to solicit feedback from industry with respect to the matters described in this RFI. And respondents should explain any assumptions they make in their responses, and requests must be submitted to Nicole Genier, and she gives her email address out. If anyone wants it, I will give you it, and you can bombard her and tell her to go and F herself, quite frankly. Now, Canada may summarise the feedback received and inform suppliers on www.buyandsell.gc.ca regarding how industry's questions, ideas, solutions have been considered. The delivery date was mentioned above, and then it says this: the Crown retains the right to negotiate with suppliers on any procurement. Documents may be submitted in either official language of Canada, and a contact phone 873 353 7957. This feels like 2012 time again, does it not? And Jade Helm operations, FEMA, guillotine trains and camps, and we're all going to be rounded up and die. But with the virus going down, with the lies to do with statistics going down, why do you need these facilities? And Canada, like America, has to step away from the Crown, which has zero to do with British royalty and all to do with Rothschilds and pseudo-Egyptian Masons operating under the Judeo-fascism and communism movement. Next, we're going to Italy. This was a report sent in. It's kind of interesting, and it also has implications here and every other country we mentioned about the birth certificates. And since 1933, Italy has been a private corporation registered with the SEC of Washington, D.C., which is USA Security and Exchange Commission. So Italy, instead of being a free and public republic, is a private company, and the state owns the property right of the people born on its territory. The Senate, the Chamber of Deputies, the courts, the regions, etc. are all companies with regulations, boards of directors and private corporate management. The law actually enforced on our nation would be commercial law, or UCC, which derives directly from maritime law. And in short, Italy is a company with its slaves whose aim is to produce huge profits for someone who does little or nothing to achieve with the beautiful country. The amazing thing is that all this information is accessible by anyone. Nothing is secret then, but everything in the sunlight. And this is because power, in that order to last over time, must be based on the law of consent or free will. The ancient Romans already knew that the consensus obtained with lies, forcing, tricks, rhetoric and anything else, they had managed to build one of the greatest empires that history remembers. The consent of the citizen is, therefore, still indispensable today, and the politics is nothing more than the noble art of gaining and maintaining the consent of the people. That is absolutely correct. This is why we said 4 years ago initially, don't vote. If nobody votes, there is no election. Then we create our own. Remember, the highest candidate in the last American election was not Mr. Trump. It was the no vote. And by some margin as well. Without the consent of its inhabitants, it is impossible to govern any nation. Italy is therefore a private company whose name is Republic of Italy, whose serial number is 00000052782. The registration form of Republic of Italy is at the SEC. Now, there are two levels of knowledge, one for the people, where there are states democratically managed by the people themselves and where taxes serve to make services work, the one where we learn at school in practice, and the other level for the upper echelons where the world is owned by unknown persons and divided into private areas managed by supernatural organizations of which we are not required to know anything. And that's there before our eyes. The pre-powerful use of company of private law listed on the financial markets pretend that it is a state, with Republic of Italy in brackets, a public body. In fact, it is in the facts of very private law. And they use it to do business, money, profit behind us. And they also ask us to pay taxes to maintain a private law company that does not belong to us. This applies here as well. And the concept is, therefore, that if you accept this system, you call yourselves incapable, in need of being administered in a forced manner. Because in addition to being dispersed at sea, we're all declared dead at age 7, which is why we have capital letters for a name. Therefore, without rights and bankrupt, because you have never claimed what is yours, and you do not even know who you are. And what this person is saying there is that all capital letters is not you. So you don't recognize who you are. Absurdly, it says every authority, in fact, has to ask you who you are. Otherwise, they can't touch you even with one finger. They wouldn't have the jurisdiction to do so. So Italy is not a free and public republic, but a colony, that acts as a private company, and the state has the right of ownership of the people, all of us, born on its territory. At the time of your birth, without notifying you, a trust was created, that is, a trust system, which has its objects, your life and your parents endorsed, and signed this trust without being notified. In fact, it's precisely in the 1930s that it becomes mandatory, coincidentally, to register births, thus appropriating consent. And that's why this system is fraudulent. Actually, the birth certificate is a warning, because it is the constitution of a fictitious personality which does not belong to you, but it does to them. In fact, if you could mistakenly think that the birth certificate belongs to us, it would be enough to try to go to any registry competent to ask for its original. We can have a copy, an extract, but never the original. And this trust is created according to the maritime and admiralty laws that always transcends the laws of the various nations, and that is the secret jurisprudence of the powerful and the elite. Now, the beneficiary of the trust is the private law company called the Italian Republic. But beneficiary of what? Beneficiary of a bond, a title of possession, or a share of the company that is currently estimated at approximately $2 million. In practice, the Italian state and its masters, the bankers who own a financial bank, create $2 million by means of a bond or security at your birth, and the collateral of this bond is your existence in life, which means productivity, workforce, less and less paid and protected so they earn more. Which is the real value? Taking advantage of your possibilities to the limit. The perverse equivalence is birth equals creation of a bond and fictitious money equals your existence in life and therefore your future work. Paid very little if possible, as they are evidently doing, equals slavery. And your bond is deposited with the SEC as a security or trust title and becomes part of the assets of that company, registered as government of the Italian Republic colony of the United States and bankers. And the circle closes. And the guy who wrote this said, after what I've just said, it is necessary for each of us to take responsibility for our own lives and stop delegating. Here, that's what we're doing with the TPC. Above all, to delegate to a system that wants to annihilate us. A first step is self-certification, that until proven otherwise, everyone can subscribe to. That was a good reminder on how it affects us all. It's not often we have material from Italy outside of mentioning the Judeo-Catholic Church. So, good stuff.